Michael Flynn, sentencing memo has been released by the special counsel's office of Robert Mueller. Of course, we've been waiting for this all day. Michael Flynn having already pleaded guilty to one count of lying to the FBI, a recommended sentence of 0 to 6 months for that crime. I'm getting it here, and I have Dan Goldman here, who has been speed reading. So far as I look at it, let me just show this. There are some redacted portions to it, but it also, actually, here's one. The defendant also provided useful information concerning redacted. How much information do we have here, Dan?
Very little. Very little. This is the addendum that you're referencing there, which has been redacted, and basically all of the information about the ongoing investigation is redacted. It doesn't include anything in public that would reveal anything that we don't know already. The main sentencing memo outlines in some detail his 2 sets of false statements relating to conversations he had with Russians about sanctions during the transition period, and also outlining the lies about his foreign lobbying for Turkey. But, you know, given the anticipation that we all had about this, this is underwhelming.
Yes, although let me say this. Two things jump out at me here. As part of his assistance with these investigations, the defendant participated in 19 interviews with the special counsel's office or attorneys from other Department of Justice offices, which is also interesting, not just SEO, provided documents and communications. That's very significant cooperation.
Absolutely. And substantial. They used all the terms that you expect. With fulsome cooperation, he's getting a downward departure in his already short 0 to 6 month sentence. But here's the bottom line, if our viewers can see this. The good stuff is blacked out.
Just to put in context, 19 meetings. When I had cooperating witnesses, the only times I would meet 19 or more times with a cooperating witness was when we were preparing for trial. That is a significant number of meetings. We can reference the fact that Michael Cohen had 7 meetings with the special counsel's office. 19 meetings is a lot. And so that is an indication that, as you know, you don't meet with somebody more and more and more if they don't have more and more information to provide.
And I think what this underscores is Mike Flynn has been cooperating for a year in a black hole.
In a black hole. That's right.
We know that Mueller
Nothing has popped out.
Mike Flynn's lawyers don't leak. And I'm convinced the Trump team has no idea what he has given the special counsel.
Let me also say this. Defendant has provided substantial assistance in a criminal investigation. That's Section A, all blacked out. But here's an important point, and this is an obvious one, but when you see it in writing, again, it sort of strikes you. The defendant has also assisted with the SEO investigation concerning links or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign. That's it. Like, that sentence is, we are pursuing a criminal investigation into whether there was collusion between the pre-established conspiracy directed by Vladimir Putin on behalf of a hostile foreign adversary to subvert an American election in illegal fashion, was coordinated with associates of the current president of the United States. That is the meat of the inquiry we are undertaking, and this man has cooperated with it.
And they've always said that that was the investigation, but obviously they haven't ruled it out. They're still investigating, and they're saying that he has helped us with that investigation.
We knew this from the Jerome Corsi, documents. I mean, this is not a bombshell surprise. I think the takeaways here are that they also indicate that they understand that his full cooperation will not be realized because the investigation is ongoing, but nonetheless, they feel like there's sufficient cooperation to have him sentenced at this time. We were talking about that at the top of the show, that the timing of this is unusual, but because the guideline range of 0 to 6 months is so low, he doesn't need a lot of cooperation to get the probation sentence. The other thing that's interesting is I'm certain he is going to be required to continue his cooperation following sentencing. So that is, I believe, part of his plea agreement and something that he likely would have agreed to do.
What do you think this says to us about where Mueller is at?
I've believed for a while that we are not very close to the end. We may be at the beginning of the end, But I think there's some time to go, and I think this underscores that.
Because if there was a big, like, hey, here's everything we know,
Yeah.
that is an indication of where he is in the trajectory.
There are some very sensitive matters that obviously they don't want revealed to the targets and the witnesses and the public that they're still pursuing. And, look, we know that Rick Gates is still cooperating and has a status conference in January. We know that Roger Stone and Jerome Corsi may be indicted, and if that happens, that will have to play out for several months. So I think we're looking at another 6 months at a minimum here.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.